Hello, everybody. It's Life with Willie and Renee again. Guess which one is Willie and which one is Renee? Yes. And today we're tackling a subject um, that is real prevalent, in our society right now, and that's about ICE. And um, usually I do a lot of talking, but I want my husband to be able to talk a little bit and explain about what ICE is and what it does, and then, we can discuss a little bit more about how it affects our lives or does it or what actually, it's for all of those different things. He was a government worker. He understands how the government works. So over to you, Willie.
Okay. ICE is a subject that I was talking to my wife about just to most people have an idea of what ICE is, right? And we think we do. We understand that ICE is a government agency that is supported by the US government that we think that now has just come on the scene. Well, actually, ICE was started in right after the 9/11 disasters, and it stands for uh,
Uh,
immigration,
oh, well, wait a minute. We got it. Customs.
immigration customs enforcement, which means that they actually started basically as a Homeland Security agency, a part of Homeland Security, and their function was to make sure that the U.S. government had folk who were trained and who were equipped to deport any immigrants that were doing anything that was contrary to the stability of the U.S. government. And that included mainly it was geared towards criminals or criminal element that were doing things within the country, whether it was actually committing crimes, drugs, and which is a crime, or came into this country illegally or trafficking and so forth. Well, after in recent, I'll say in the recent year, ICE roles has switched to a degree. And now we hear a lot about ICE, and the first thing comes to our mind is just immigration, nothing else, nothing to do with any type of customs or anything about real. We hear President say, "Oh, we're getting rid of criminals," and we have that thought process that is in everybody that is, if a person that came into this country, we'll say illegally or have overstayed their visas and so forth. In a sense, we're saying that they're criminals and that they have to be deported and that they are degenerates to this country and that they're bringing down the value of the U.S. government. And in most cases, they're not. Is people are here a lot of times just for a better life. They just want to live a little bit better than where they were in their original countries. And unfortunately, some did come over here illegally or overstayed their visas or what have you, or even came in a way of trafficking. But overall, most people, at least according to statistics, have not uh, committed any crimes while they're here, or other than come into the U.S. or overstay their visas.
Well, let me ask a question then. How do you think that um, the overstaying the visas and this, that, and the other? Because some people overstayed their visas and have been here for like 30 years, 40 years, and been contributing to society and all of that. And do they have a right to stay just because you've been here a long time, or you know, or should that be a whole other department, maybe, like under immigration and not just necessarily ICE, like policing and reforce? What do you think that it should be? How do you feel like maybe it should be handled, or could be handled better, or are they doing a good job, or what do you
Well,
think?
I think that our records are kept pretty meticulously, and I think they can be where you should be able to show whether or not a person has actually even made an attempt to get legal status. And the problem is, I think, is so many people never even care about anything like that. They just automatically assume, well, nobody's going to ever come looking for me, and it's going to be okay. But in my adult life, I've heard this forever from every president we've had, that they try to come up with some type of way about either border security or just people in the country illegally and what they should do, what they can't do. And I think a lot of people know that they can't, for instance, get Social Security, or they can't if they are caught, by being illegally in the country, then there's some type of penalty for that. And therefore, it has been on a person's mind, to me, that they are or were illegal. And at least I think everyone should have made an attempt to correct that, instead of just automatically saying, "Oh, well, they'll put me out of the country and I don't want to go," and so forth. But at that point, you take your own. That is a risk that you choose to take.
So do you think that they're going about that the right way now, or that there might be, because I heard you say where, they keep records, and so people would know, that you're not. So maybe, when you try to sign up for stuff, or people who are hiring people illegally, then they should be penalized maybe because of, you need to make sure that that person is here, correctly, have a sponsor, whatever the case may be. What do you think about that?
Well, I think in the U.S. now, supposedly, if you apply for a job or get a job, most companies require that they do some type of background check to verify that you are legal to work in this country. The problem is there's a lot of Americans, especially or American companies, that's their way of getting over on people. They have people here working for a little or nothing, and they're getting houses built, doing building roadways and stuff, and they're the ones that's being all that kind of stuff. And the company owners are the ones that are making the money and taking advantage of the people because they can. It's close to the way it was during slavery. They slave work, and then but they weren't the benefactors of that work in most cases. There was other people, and that is almost like what we have now. That people can come here and work, where they're building houses, they're working as maids, doing any type of skilled labor, and then get paid half of what they should, because the owners of the companies just says, well, I give you what I want, or you can be deported. But since so many of these people who say, well, I have, at least this is better than what I used to have. And that's one of the things that I'm not sure how to go about, getting that change, because it's a lifestyle that they had, that they appreciate our lifestyle even more so, a little bit more so. Yeah, because like now we have that thing, and it is interesting because so many people have been deported by ICE or the Border Patrol, because they either were here illegally and so forth, so they uh, did pick fruits and vegetables, or they worked in fields, or did household work, or what have you. And now the question I have is, who's going to do it? If you don't have a certain type of skill level or desire to do it, then what are you going to do? These farmers who have been getting over for years by paying people, half of what they should. And part of that is the fact that they pay that half because we as consumers would not pay maybe a certain amount because say, well, orange will cost you X amount if an American went out there and picked it. Mm. You know, we're not going to pay you double the price simply because you're an American. Mm. But that may be what they're looking at now because it's going to be difficult to get certain positions filled with the amount of pay that people used to get paid.
Well, I agree with you in that, you know, they don't want to pay the skilled labor what they, you know, actually worth and what Americans, you know, would require or whatever. But I do feel like that ICE has gotten away to me from what they were originally created to be. And I feel like the immigration laws or the immigration officers or whatever should be the enforcers more. As you're saying, like they, you know, people are talking about making sure that you show, you know, proof that you are here, okay? But they'll go to, say, construction jobs, you know, knowing that they're not going to do a background check. The constructors are like, yes, I have to pay this skilled labor here like $32 an hour, and I can just pay you $14 an hour or $12 an hour. And yeah, and so they're not going to do a background check. They're not, you know, because they already know, you know, that, and they pay you under the table, you know, give you cash or whatever the case may be. And I feel like that's who they should be focusing on. The immigration
taking advantage of people.
Right. They should have penalties or your building your business closed down until you have the proper, you know, people there to work, you know, that are supposed to be there and that are legal or whatever. I feel like just going by the people, you know, because as statistics have shown us, most of them are not criminals, you know, and not drug dealers and all of that. They're just regular working people. Okay. And and so if you tell them that, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to work, you know, um, because you don't have the right credentials, and you're going to need to go back home and get the right credentials, or we give you 90 days to file paperwork or whatever the case may be, you know.
Make an effort.
Yes. But it should not be where these just regular workers are the ones that's getting penalized. I don't feel they can get, but the people who they're working for should get penalized. And then you wouldn't have to have ICE agents doing all of this stuff. They'd be like, no, I can't even afford to pay you the $14 an hour or $6 an hour, whatever, because they're going to take my business, you know, and I'm going to have a penalty to pay and all of that. But as long as they're going and getting the workers and things, and ICE is doing all of this, this, and this, you know, then the people who are hiring them or whatever are getting away scot-free. And they're like, yes, get rid of them. And they get rid of them because they have more, you know, more people. I'll do it. You don't have to pay me 14, you can pay me 12, you know, or whatever.
Like the one getting arrested at Home Depot.
Right.
You know, then a few minutes later, another pickup truck come in, picking up another load to go and do some work.
Well, if, like I say, the migrants or the immigrants, yes, don't get work and they get picked up, okay, and you have so many days or whatever months to get it straight. But then as a result, whoever is picking you up and hiring you, they get penalized as well. I feel like the system would do better. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Instead of just getting people just randomly, you know, to me, it's just gotten, you know, just out of hand, just overboard. Yeah. And kids who are in school and things like that, as long as they have their school visas and things, then they can stay, you know. But if they overstay that, then, you know, the school should know that, no, you're not supposed to still be here. Then that school should get penalized if they let them stay there. No, you have to go, you know. like I say, the people who are the powers that be, I think they could play a major part. Thank you for explaining that to us and letting us know. Yeah, tell us what you think about ICE and the immigration policies and how things are being played out, and maybe some suggestions or solutions. Who knows? Write your congressperson, write your senators, all of that. Write us and comment to us and subscribe, because we got plenty of stuff to talk about. Okay. And with that, we'll see you next time, huh?
See you next time, man. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.